So the fallout continues from Charlottesville. Senator Lindsey Graham condemning Donald Trump's equivocation on the matter. He wrote, through his statements yesterday, President Trump took a step backward by again suggesting there's moral equivalency between the white supremacist neo-Nazis and KKK members who attended the Charlottesville rally and people like Ms. Heyer, who of course was the person who was killed. I, along with many others, do not endorse this moral equivalency. So of course that sends Trump into a rage, or he's going to triple down and dig this hole even deeper. He tweets, publicity-seeking Lindsey Graham falsely stated that I said there's moral equivalency between the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and people like Ms. Heyer. Such a disgusting lie. He just can't forget his election trouncing the people of South Carolina will remember. Oh, so that's classy. You're threatening his seat in the midst of this, responding to this national crisis. And you're talking about how he lost in the campaign. Well, okay. I'm not gonna go back to all the times where I can show you tapes of him saying, both sides do it. And there's very fine people on both sides, and that the left was very, very violent. Because I don't have to. He did the same moral equivalency today. So he first says, I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. Okay, then he goes on to say this. You had a group on one side and the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious and horrible. It was a horrible thing to watch. There is another side. There was a group on this side. You can call them the left. You have just called them the left that came violently attacking the other group. You can say what you want. That's the way it is. You just put them on the same moral plane. You just did it. You did it again for the third time. That was a moral equivalency. Oh, both sides were doing the violence. Wait, who got killed? Who ran over other people? No, that was the alt-right. Apparently your side, because you keep defending them. 3-4 days later, you're still defending. No, now it's 5 days later, you're still defending them. And you're still saying, well, I mean, maybe they had it coming. Maybe the people who got run over and murdered had it coming. Very violent, terrible, horrible things on the left side. So the guys who are Nazis and the guys who were protesting against Nazis, well, both of them are violent. They're both at fault. So just let's be clear about it. Yes, you are definitely putting them on the same plane. You're doing moral equivalency. That's because you're a monster. And you think those guys who went and chanted, the Jews will not replace us. They went and found a synagogue in Charlottesville and they started walking around with their guns, chanting Sig Heil. There's some fine people on that side, Trump says. There's some fine people on that side. So were the people inside the synagogue who were scared for their lives in America in 2017? Or did they also have it coming? This guy's disgusting. So he can't stop. He can't stop himself. What did I tell you? I told you he can't stop himself. He's going to keep on digging and digging and digging because that's who he is. He's stubborn, he's a moron, and yes, he is a white nationalist. I'm not saying it, he's the one constantly defending them. Okay, he says, sad to see the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments. You can't change history, but you can learn from it. Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, who's next? Washington, Jefferson, so foolish. Also, the beauty that is being taken out of our cities, towns, and parks will be greatly missed and never able to comparably replaced. So let's just first start with the difference between Washington, Jefferson, and Stonewall Jackson and General Lee. One side were Americans. They started America, Washington and Jefferson. Were they perfect? Of course not. Do we study them in their full context? Yes. Any smart person would. But they started America and built the foundation for a country that is amazing. And yes, that union needs to be perfected, but they wrote a beautiful constitution. And one of the greatest documents ever, and one of the reasons it's one of the greatest documents is said, you should change this document from time to time and you should make it better, and we have. The other guys betrayed the country that Washington and Jefferson started and were traitors and murdered Americans in the middle of a civil war. Hundreds of thousands of Americans lost their lives because those traitors started a war just so they could own other human beings. If you can't understand that distinction, you're not an American, you're of course also not very bright, and don't dare ever lead in one of your rallies a USA, USA chant as you celebrate the beautiful statues of the traitors who betrayed this country. We lost more people in that war than any other war because of those traitors that you now call beautiful. And those beautiful statues were not put up right after the Civil War. They were put up during the Jim Crow era, and they had a very specific purpose. It was to intimidate African Americans living in the South. Over 700 of them were put up. Over 700 of them are still up. And they were put up in places like where slave auctions used to happen. That was not an accident. They put it up next to the slave auction to remind people that there were slave auctions, and those were the men who protected the idea of slave auctions. They are not beautiful, they are disgusting, just like you, Donald Trump. The other places they put them up is in the big town circles and squares to say, we run this place, and then they put them up next to government buildings and courthouses to say, you'll never get your rights, African Americans. So are they right in tearing them down? Goddamn right they are. You're gonna walk in the shadow of those monsters? The ones who took your freedom, your lives, let alone everything else? No, 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 no. And he calls them beautiful. The jury's in, man. There's no questioning anymore what Donald Trump is. He is, and let me be incredibly clear here, racist. He is a clear racist. And if you don't like it, that's a sad day for you, but that's a fact. You don't go support these monsters. He said, if you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. They were holding torches, imitating a Klan rally, chanting blood and soil, which is a Nazi chant. They also chanted, Jews will not replace us. And the other thing they were not quiet about is when they murdered Heather Heyer and ran over 19 other people. You want to make excuse for him, go ahead. But the jury's in and the facts are in. He's a clear racist. And anyone who supports that racist, knowing who he is, you know what you are too. And if you want to cry about it, you want to be a snowflake, you want to get triggered by the facts, go cry and cry and cry. But the reality is the Confederacy were traitors. They wanted slavery. They believed in white supremacy. And yes, you moron, if you believe in white supremacy, that is the definition of racism. I saw an idiot Klansman the other day on a video going, oh yeah, white people are superior, right? I know, that's why you're so successful, right? You freaking loser. It's just nothing but absolute trash sitting there saying how he's superior to other people, because he isn't, because he's a loser. And he desperately, desperately needs someone to be lower than him. And he can't do it based on a meritocracy, so he's gonna say, I don't know, I'm gonna pick a random thing, whether it's religion or race, and put that guy underneath me. And he said, white people are superior. And then they say, well, isn't that racist? He goes, no, that's not racism. No, that's the definition of racism. And you support the Confederacy, you support those men, those statues, you support those traitors, you support guys who imitated a Klan rally, you support Nazis who ran over people and chanted Jews will not replace us. Yes, you are a racist and a bigot. If you like this video, you probably like independent media. The best way to support independent media, become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.